Hey there, I am Brian Cottrell. I am the head of emerging channels for Maropost Commerce Cloud. And I'm based in the US and work with the Australian and global teams on emerging channels, opportunities for growth with clients, and for helping to enable more growth and sales across the platform. If you go to the next slide. Joined by Arabella Baker, who is the International Expansion Manager for Amazon. And we're going to take you through a bit of this presentation about the opportunity with Amazon, how you're enabled to do that through Maropost Commerce Cloud, and the opportunities, I think, that are there. And Arabella will touch on some of the specifics of integrating and really getting the most out of an integration. Go ahead to that next one. So as we go, if you have any questions, please enter them into the Q&A. We'll have time at the end to answer some of those. You can also just use the chat for communication, of course, but the Q&A is something that we'll review at the end. So with Maropost Commerce Cloud, the opportunity, I think that we all know is a huge opportunity with the US market in particular, but especially through marketplaces. And I'll talk a bit more about that. But you can see in this slide a bit about the size of the addressable market in Australia and in the US when it comes to e-commerce revenue, 26 billion as opposed to 431 billion, and where the market is going. So 563 billion is the estimated e-commerce revenue heading into 2025. It's quite a bit more than in the Australia market, obviously, but what we found, and I think what you'll see and why we were so excited to do this presentation, is that while it's a huge market and opportunity, it's something that customers that win there really are set up properly and are set up to compete. It's easy to see a huge number like that and go, oh, surely we can get a portion of a percentage of that just by being there. But it's so important to be there in the right way and to really be enabled to reach a broad range of customers in the way that they are shopping. Next slide, please. So one key difference with the American market, the US market, as opposed to the Australian market is an adoption, so a digital adoption rate. And I think more importantly, if you go to the next slide, please. Mm-hmm. It's the rate of adoption in marketplaces. So forgive these numbers for being a couple years old, but they do hold up as a ratio. That the marketplace shoppers in the US are almost twice the adoption rate as you'd see in Australia. So what you see here is a much more consolidated market, and the marketplaces themselves are much better suited to grab a majority of online shoppers' attention. And this is due to a few reasons. It's the marketing spend. It's a market that is been gone through acquisitions and condensations. But you'll see that being in the right marketplace is really key to growth into the US. Next. So some advantages of the marketplaces that we'll be talking about, but in general, are just the ability, I think, to scale. So being able to access this highly engaged, high number of buyers using the market scale and power of somebody like Amazon when it comes to the availability, the marketing expenses, and the attention that they get from their customers. And I think also really important is the predictability of your expenses. So really knowing how you're going to be able to cost those and the other services that are needed to be successful into a new marketplace and breaking into a new nationality, a new country. So I'm going to turn the time over now to Arabella to talk more about the specifics with the Amazon side of things. Again, chat is open, and if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A and we'll address those right at the end.
Great. Thanks so much, Brian. Thanks for sharing those stats as well on the global opportunity as it is in the US, and I'll be sharing in the next few slides exactly how Amazon is contributing to those growth trends. But before I get to that, I just want to run through a brief agenda for our time together today. So for the remainder of this session, I'm going to be really focusing on what it is you need to do to have sustained growth on Amazon.com in the short, medium, and long term. So we're going to start by getting into what it is you need to be considering before you take the leap to expand into the United States, the foundations of successful selling partners on Amazon, what exactly they're doing, and then what you can do to grow your business on Amazon.com through promotions and ads and so on. So I hope you've brought your pen and paper, because if you didn't action anything as a result of today's session, then I haven't done my job properly. So please keep in mind the things that you're going to action after today's session. I'll be asking for some key takeaways as we get to the end. And then after we understand all the things that we need to do, Seller University is a great place to understand the how to implement these things in Seller Central on Amazon. I'll send through a link to Seller University post the session, but essentially it's a repository of video tutorials that will help you action all the things that we talked through today. So good to keep that one in mind. All right, let's take stock of Amazon's global presence. So I'll work my way clockwise around this world map. Amazon has 300 million customers worldwide at last count, not specifically 300, probably a tick over now. 150 million of those 300 customers are Amazon Prime members, with approximately 98 million of them living in the US. 98 million Prime members is 4 times the population of Australia, which just blows my mind. 450,000 was the number of American small medium businesses who, by taking advantage of fulfillment by Amazon, were able to grow their business by 34%. 160,000 was the average sales in USD from American SMBs on Amazon.com. That was a stat from 2020. 50% of all units sold globally were from third-party sellers, such as yourself. Since the pandemic hit, we've been seeing third-party sales continuing to outpace traditional Amazon retail sales, and we're recording record numbers year on year. So really exciting place to be. Last but not least, Amazon has 16 online stores worldwide. But of course, for the purpose of today's session, we are going to be focusing on the United States, Amazon's biggest store. However, it would be amiss of me not to touch on Amazon.com.au as well. When Aussie and New Zealand businesses start their Amazon journey, they typically start on Amazon.com.au and .com simultaneously. This has been made way easier due to the introduction of what's called Amazon Global Registrations, which allows you to manage your business in all of Amazon's global stores from one account. So Australia, definitely achievable to launch at the same time as your launch into the US. So just briefly on Amazon.com.au. So Amazon launched in Australia in December of 2017, and since that point, we've been recording double-digit growth year on year. We now have, we've built 11 fulfillment centers over the past 12 months, thanks to COVID demand, and we're now over the 1 billion mark for revenue, which is pretty cool. I think Amazon Australia is a really exciting opportunity, especially because there's still some selection gaps where Australian customers are looking, but there isn't enough selection to meet demand. And perhaps there's the opportunity for you to offer a better experience in terms of delivery or pricing or quality. I was reading the other day that it was in the Australian Post e-commerce report that comes out annually, that e-commerce as of last year accounted for only 16% of total retail spend in Australia. So I think going on that growth trend of e-commerce continuing to obtain retail spend with Amazon, who is the fastest pace growing e-commerce channel in Australia, presents a great opportunity. Briefly on Amazon.com, I know Brian went through the stats about the e-commerce opportunity in the US, and I briefly touched on some of the stats of how businesses are growing on Amazon.com. But as we probably all know, Amazon.com is Amazon's most established store. 98 million Prime members. I saw a stat the other day that 55% of all online product searches in the US begin on Amazon.com. So I don't need to go into any more depth around the opportunity here. And I know that's why we're all here as well, because we realize there is that opportunity. So with that all in mind, let's start getting into the nitty-gritty of the session. So we're going to kick off with understanding the key considerations of expanding into the US and what you need to be aware of before doing so. So pen and paper at the ready. I'll go through these sequentially. First and foremost, local laws and regulations. So you'll want to research if your product requires certification or regulatory approval to be sold in the US, period. Typically, products we see that need these type of approvals might be toys or groceries. For toys, we typically see things like a children's product certificate being required. For food, FDA approval, otherwise known as the Food and Drug Administration. Next up, we have products requiring approval to be sold on Amazon.com. So you'll want to research our restricted product help pages in Seller Central to determine if the product you're selling or the category you're selling within needs approval prior to being sold on Amazon.com. So typically, if you require approval at a federal level, as I said, children's product certificate, FDA clearance, then Amazon will typically require you to provide that documentation to grant you approval to sell. You can understand if you need approval by contacting the seller support team, and they'll let you know exactly what information is required from you for approval to be granted. All right, moving into income and sales tax. So for income tax, the Inland Revenue Service regulations require non-US taxpayers to provide Form W-8BEN to Amazon to be exempt from US tax reporting requirements. So noting this down, you need to provide Form W-8BEN to Amazon. For the sales tax side of things, Amazon is what's known as a marketplace tax collector, which means Amazon is authorized to collect tax on your behalf and remit it to the relevant US state tax authorities on your behalf as well. So very similar to if I was going to purchase a product on an Australian site, when I go through to checkout, 10% GST is applied to the cost of that purchase, and that's borne by me, the customer. So sales tax, nothing to be alarmed of there. Income tax, make sure you fill out Form W-8BEN to ensure you're exempt from income tax reporting in the US. Don't want you to be hit by the ATO and the IRS. All right, fourth up, we have customs. So you'll want to understand if you or your international shipper will be the importer of record for the documentation you need to provide to US customs for safe entry of your product into the US. Just to clarify, an importer of record is the owner, consignee, or purchaser of the importing products. So typically international shippers have customs brokers that will do this for you, but it's good to be across it either way. So definitely look into that. Last but not least, insurance. So within Amazon's terms of service, it states that a company is required to carry $1 million in general liability coverage if your sales are more than $10,000 annually. So, I mean, if you implement all of the foundations and recommendations we go through today, then ideally your income will be well above 10,000 annually. So insurance will definitely apply. Okay, those are our key considerations. Now we're going to dig into the foundations of successful Aussie and New Zealand businesses selling on Amazon.com. But before I get into foundation one, I guess the most immediate action you'll take after you set up your Amazon account is to start getting your products listed onto the platform. So I just want to run through the key considerations for listing your product, and then we'll get into the foundations. So key consideration number one is how many products are you wanting to list on Amazon? If you're listing less than 5 products, you're probably going to use a tool known as the Add a Product tool, and that allows you to list your products one by one. If you are listing more than 5 products, then I might recommend you use our Add Products via Upload tool, which is essentially downloading an Excel template from Amazon Seller Central, completing that with the details of your product and offer, and then re-uploading that back into the system. Second key consideration is my product new to Amazon, aka no other business on Amazon is selling this product, in which case I'm going to create a totally new product listing. Or yes, my product is being sold by other businesses on Amazon, in which case I'm going to match to an existing listing. That basically allows you to piggyback off all the hard work that another business has done and just change the details of your offer, like price, delivery experience, and such. Again, Seller University lists a whole host of video tutorials on how to list your product. So I recommend heading there when you're looking to tackle this. Okay, foundation number 1 is optimizing your detail page. So goes hand in hand with listing. There are 5 key elements of a quality detail page. I'll start with title and I'll work anti-clockwise around this page. So your title, your category should have specific title requirements, but in general, the standard formula is brand plus your product name plus the material key ingredient plus the color, size, or quantity. Moving across the left, you see images. So your images should be always against a white background, especially for your primary image, 1000 pixels in size, and be in a JPEG format. Your primary image is the first interaction a customer will have with your product, so you want this to exude quality. I kind of think of this like online dating, when the person on the other side of the screen, like viciously flicks through photos until something catches their attention. So thinking about what's going to catch your customer's attention, and quality professionally shot photos definitely do that. Okay, moving on to number 3, we have our bullet points. So you'll want a minimum of 4 bullet points, and this is where you want to highlight the key features and benefits of your product, be that its dimensions, its compatibility, its ingredients, its materials, whatever it is that your customers will be looking to see. Moving into number 4, we have our product description. So this is when you can dive into more of a narrative description on the usage and feel of your product, so a customer can see themselves using your product. Before I move into price and delivery times, important to note that your title, your bullet points, and your product description all contribute to the searchability of your product on Amazon.com. So you want to use keywords in there that you think your customers will look for. An example might be, if I want to buy a 56-inch desktop monitor, then me as a customer would type in 56-inch monitor into the search bar. And then for a detail page that's offering that product, I'd want to have in my bullet points 56-inch LED screen. I'd want to have that in my product description and in my title. So trying to make sure you intertwine key search terms into your bullet points, title, and product description is key. Okay, last but definitely not least is price and delivery times. So we know from our research that these are the 2 most important factors towards a purchase decision. So when we think about price, you'll want to research what your competitors are offering their price for the product at, and make sure you're competitive with that. And then in terms of delivery times, 98 million Amazon Prime members in the US who have become very accustomed to 2-day free shipping, they're probably going to expect 2-day free shipping on their orders. And we'll discuss that as we continue on. All right, foundation number 2 is enroll in brand registry. So brand registry is a program that unlocks a suite of tools designed to help brand owners build and protect their brand on Amazon. Amazon defines a brand owner as anyone who has an official government registered trademark. So for example, us in Australia, our official registered trademark would come from IP Australia. Quickly on the features you get from brand registry. First and foremost, you see proactive brand protection there. So our brand protection team consistently scans the Amazon catalog to pick up on any suspected infringement of your IP. Likewise, if you suspect infringement of your IP from another seller, you can flag this with the brand protection team, and they will suppress that selling partner's account whilst they conduct an investigation. Secondly, access to A+ content. This is essentially enhanced text and imagery on your product detail page. And again, that contributes to discoverability of your product because there's more keywords you could be using with those placements. Saw the other day that having A+ content on your listing can contribute to a 5.6% uplift in sales. So big benefit there. Last but not least, you get your own Amazon.com web address. So exactly like the example you see on the right here, you can build out your own brand's website with your own images. You can list your full catalog, go into extra information, and so on. So with Amazon.com customers being very sophisticated with the platform, these are the type of things they look for to help inform their purchase decision. In terms of eligibility, as I said, brand owners have IP registration in an official government body. So that's the criteria. Quick question I get on brand registry is if you can use your IP Australia trademark for enrollment on Amazon.com. The answer is yes, you can. You will need to have your trademark published though. So it can't be in pending or under examination. It needs to be fully published for you to have access to brand registry on Amazon.com. All right, foundation number 3, sourcing a reliable and timely shipping partner. Now, I know COVID threw a bit of a spanner in the works when it comes to reliable and timely shipping, but it also highlighted how important it is that to have a shipping partner that keeps you updated with where your inventory is in the international shipping. We typically find that this is the source of most, I guess, anxiety when it comes to international expansion is not knowing where your shipment is in the world. So shop around, find the right shipping partner that gives you that amount of security and transparency, and it's definitely worth it. When we're thinking about your international shipping options, there's really 2 for you to consider. The first one is engaging a third-party shipping partner like a DHL, a FedEx, an Ozpost. Typically, your manufacturer will have an international shipping partner they work with, so sometimes it's easier just to go with them. But in other instances, we list a whole host of Aussie-based international shipping providers that within our service provider network, and I'll go into that in the following page. On the right-hand side, we then have your second option, which is Amazon Global Logistics. Caveat here though, you can only use Amazon Global Logistics if you were shipping your products from your manufacturer in China to fulfillment by Amazon in the US. So China to US FBA, that's the channel that you can use Amazon Global Logistics for. If that applies to you, this is absolutely the option you should be thinking about. The rates for international shipping using AGL, as we abbreviate it, is super competitive and often undercuts all the other providers. So a good way to save costs there. Okay, foundation number 4 is engaging a third-party expert. So in some instances, Amazon won't have all the information or the infrastructure you require to continue along your expansion journey into the US or into other countries. And for that reason, we have a service provider network which lists external experts to help you at certain points of that journey. So just to give you some examples of what those points might look like, when I work with Aussie New Zealand businesses, I'm referring them to the service provider network in 4 instances. The first one is listing. So the listing process can be complex on Amazon, especially if you're listing multiple products with multiple variations. Many selling partners are happy to pay for someone to go in and do this right straight away. The service provider network lists a whole host of, I guess, expert listing partners that you can engage for a fee to go into Seller Central and list your products for you. Second most common one is, of course, international shipping. As I said, we list a whole host of Aussie-based and internationally based shipping providers that have experience shipping to fulfillment by Amazon. So you know that all the providers in that network have experience with Amazon selling partners and know exactly what you'll mean when you say, I need you to ship this to FBA. Third one is advertising. many selling partners are happy to let experts take over and manage the campaigns for them. There is an abundance of advertising options you can look for on Amazon. So just to hand over the reins is often preferred by some people. The fourth one is storage. So it's constantly changing, but at the moment there are capacity constraints for new sellers for FBA. So I think from last check, it was 1,000 units that you can send into fulfillment by Amazon. So for some Aussie New Zealand businesses, 1,000 units in a shipment is not enough to drive down costs and realize economies of scale. So for this reason, we suggest engaging a US-based 3PL or storage provider. So you can split a shipment. You can do a big shipment and split it in two. So 1,000 units goes to FBA and 2,000 units goes to the 3PL. So that's an example of the most common use cases I'm seeing at the moment for the service provider network. And I'll make sure I'll include a link to the service provider network post this session as well. Okay, going pretty good for time, knowing that I want to leave ample opportunity to answer all the questions that hopefully you're throwing into the Q&A so far throughout the session. Again, I'm going to be asking you for some of your key takeaways, so I hope you're still keeping that in mind as well, especially as we move into the third part of our roadmap, which is our recommendations to grow your business on Amazon.com. So this is probably not surprising. I've mentioned FBA pretty consistently throughout the session so far, but recommendation one is engaging Fulfillment by Amazon as your US fulfillment partner. Again, as I've been saying, 98 million Prime members in the US who have become very accustomed to 2-day free shipping on their Amazon.com orders. It's likely that if you can't meet that delivery experience, that your US customers will switch to competitor products, unless you're offering a product that's totally out of this world and they're happy to wait for international shipping times for it to get from Australia or your manufacturer to them in the US. So definitely thinking about FBA. In regards to how Fulfillment by Amazon works, so you will send your stock to a Fulfillment by Amazon warehouse in the US. Amazon will then store that inventory until the time when a US customer places an order for your product. At that point, Amazon will pick and pack that order off the shelf, will deliver it to the customer with the Prime Promise, which is 2-day free shipping. And then any customer inquiries, refunds, or returns are handled locally by our customer service team in the US. So a bit more hands-off for you and not having to deal with those back here. Next common question I get is, yeah, that sounds fantastic. Looks like the way to go, but how much is it going to cost me? So FBA has a two-pronged fee structure. The first prong is the actual fulfillment fee itself. So there are two factors that contribute to, well, that help solidify what fulfillment fee you'll be charged. They are the dimensions. So as you can see in the table, these are recorded in inches, and then shipping weight. Again, typically recorded in pounds, but I have converted these to approximate kilograms for the purpose of the session, so you can start to get a sense of where you would fall. Essentially, because the Amazon fulfillment network is so comprehensive in the US, we're able to drive costs down beneath those of other marketplace offerings. So it's definitely a cost-effective option in the US especially. Moving on to the second prong, we have the storage fee, so the cost of holding your product in our fulfillment centers. This varies depending on time of the year, obviously based on demand. So between January and September, you're looking at 75 cents to 48 cents per cubic foot. And between October and December, looking at $2.40 to $1.20 per cubic foot. And just to make it clear, all the dollar amounts you see on this page are in USD. In terms of getting these fees on hand, the sell.amazon.com website lists all of them, and I would encourage you to refer to that more consistently because they'll be the most up-to-date numbers. Okay, common question I get around FBA is how will I know which fulfillment center to send my products to, and can I choose? So the address for the fulfillment center you'll send your products to will be made available upon creation of your shipment plan in Seller Central. Can I choose, whilst you can't choose the primary receiving center or fulfillment center that your products will be shipped to, you can engage a program called the FBA Premium Placement Program to consolidate that shipment to one FC. I say consolidate, as in some instances, Amazon might split your shipment, say one shipment going to a fulfillment center in the East Coast, another going to a fulfillment center in the West Coast, and they will split it to ensure your product is closer to the customer and that we can meet that 2-day delivery guarantee. If you decide, you know what, it's going to be really expensive for me to ship to the West Coast or the East Coast, then and I want to use the fulfillment program instead, which is also for a fee, but I know that's going to be cheaper. So therefore, I might choose to consolidate. So that option is there. The split shipment doesn't happen too frequently, but it's good to know that that exists if it wasn't preferred by you. Okay, before I dive into recommendation 2, good to know that there are 5 key things that contribute to your product's discoverability on Amazon.com. So again, pen and paper at the ready. It's worth noting these down. So the first factor that contributes to your discoverability is, of course, your price. So not a whole lot I can tell you about that there. As I said, researching to see what your competitors are offering is key. So we have price, we have your detail page. So that includes your title, your imagery, your product description, your bullet points. Then we have the delivery experience you're offering. So how quickly am I getting the products to the customers? Then we have your reviews, the number of reviews you're getting, but then also the quality of the reviews you're getting. And that will help to shape your star rating out of 5. And then the 5th component is your order history. So these 5 factors contribute to organic discoverability of your product on Amazon.com. In some of the foundations and the first recommendation we went through, we've tackled those first 3: price, detail page, delivery experience. But what accrues over time is your reviews and your order number. And the best way to ramp these up in the short term is to run an ads campaign. So therefore, recommendation 2 to accompany your launch into the US is to run a sponsored products and/or coupons campaign. So quickly on what sponsored products are. So sponsored products are cost per click ads that position your products right where your customers are shopping. So what we typically see is alignment to certain keywords for an ad or to certain products. Keyword alignment is the most popular that we see. And I have an example of this in the screen grab on the right here. So I'm currently in the market for a Polaroid camera. So I typed in Polaroid into my search bar for Amazon.com. And then in the first page of search results right at the top, I see some of the sponsored products that are on offer at the moment. So for example, this Kodak Mini 3 retro portable photo printer, God, that's such a mouthful. Whilst they are not actually a Polaroid, they have aligned their ad with the search term Polaroid because the 2 products are complementary. So if I were to click on this ad to go through to Kodak's, to the Mini, I'm not going to say it again, the photo printer detail page, then Kodak would be charged a certain amount of dollars depending on what bid they placed on that keyword. That could range anywhere from, I think the minimum amount is 10 cents per click up to like $50 per click. So typically when you set up a sponsored products campaign, you'll have an indicative range for that category. So it might be between 50 cents and $2.50. So essentially, when I click through that product, that's when Kodak would be charged that fee that they put the bid on for. Great thing about sponsored products is you can set your daily, weekly, monthly budget. So say I only want to spend $150 across the week. As soon as I get close to that boundary, the campaign will cut off. So I'm never overcharged for ads. When it comes to bidding strategies, there are a few different you can deploy, and I encourage you to check back with Seller University, which goes into detail on all the different strategies you can use. Only eligibility criteria for sponsored products is you need to have a professional Amazon selling account in order to create your Amazon advertising account. So that's it. Okay, moving on to coupons. So coupons are percentage or money off discounts that are attached to your detail page and discoverable in our coupons homepage. So main difference between sponsored products and coupons is you can target specific customer groups, for example, Prime members, and totally up to you when you run them or not. Similar eligibility criteria is have to have a professional selling account in order to register for Amazon advertising. Great thing about coupons, and I think there was actually an example on the previous page. Yeah, so you can accompany a coupon with a sponsored products campaign. So if you really wanted to hit the ground running for your Amazon.com launch, then combining the two together will put you in pretty good stead. Okay, recommendation number 3 is to leverage the insights from advertising reports. Many selling partners don't realize that advertising reports exist, and it's a super key piece of information to help you determine how am I spending my money, am I spending it effectively, are my ads performing well compared to how much I'm spending, how can I reallocate my funds towards more like better performing words and such. So understanding how your campaigns are performing and where you can make tweaks is critical to long-term success. There are 6 reports that we offer. These are all free and included within your Seller Central account. The 2 that I recommend you start with, which isn't aligned with the fact that I'm recommending you commence with a sponsored products or coupons campaign, are a search term report or a keyword report. So a search term report for sponsored products provides viz into the actual search terms that were entered by shoppers that resulted in at least one click on your product. And you would use this type of report to identify those high performing keywords that you should reallocate money towards. To say example, the Polaroid camera, I might have photo printer as a keyword and Polaroid as a keyword, but I'm seeing that 90% of the time, the Polaroid keyword is the one that's getting clicked. So I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to disregard the other keyword and put that additional spend into Polaroid to make sure that I'm appearing as high up in search results as possible. With a keyword report, this provides insights into sales and performance metrics for keywords in all of your campaigns. So you would use that report to see how your keywords are performing over a period of time, help inform your bid adjustments, and to expand keyword target list. So you might find keywords in there that you didn't even know your customers were searching for that are linked to your product. So that's a good way to identify them as well. Okay. Recommendation number 4 is to take advantage of high traffic events throughout the year with deals. So what are deals? Deals are time-bound promotional offers that feature on your product page and the Amazon deals page. So the Amazon deals page is one of the most highly visited pages on Amazon.com. Customers know that when they head to the deal page, they're going to get a really great deal, especially because the eligibility criteria is quite high. Before I get to that, I'll run through the 2 types of deals that exist. The first one is a lightning deal. So lightning deals are discoverable on the deals page for only a number of hours. So say between 4 to 12 hours, we typically see. The other one, 7-day deals, which is insinuated, discoverable on the deals page for up to 1 week. So in terms of eligibility criteria to run a deal, you need to be a professional seller. You need to have at least 5 seller feedback ratings per month, which when I first saw that, I thought, wow, that sounds like a lot. But then knowing the nature of US customers who are leaving reviews after every product purchase, 5 reviews is really not that hard to achieve in a month in the US. Next one is you need to have an overall star rating of at least 3.5 stars. So that's something you can manage by checking your account health to make sure that your star ratings aren't going down due to poor delivery experience, faulty products, and such. Cool. So when we think about running deals, we probably want to align them to periods of high growth or high traffic on Amazon.com. And we can create a link between periods of high traffic and holiday and retail events throughout the year. So I've just kind of highlighted some of the main ones in the US. So we've got Valentine's Day in Feb, Independence Day in July, Halloween October, Thanksgiving November, Black Friday November, Cyber Monday December, Christmas December. So as you look across these events, think about which your product is best positioned to take advantage of. And I would plan those deal campaigns or a sponsored products campaign to align in the lead up to or during these events. Okay, how are we going for time? Pretty good, 17 minutes left. That's going to give us a good amount of time for Q&A. So that was a bit of a whirlwind. I hope everyone was able to keep track and you were taking notes throughout the session, because we're about to dive into your key takeaways in the Q&A before we go to some other questions. Just to recap on what we've been through. So as Brian and I summarized, the e-commerce opportunity in the US is pretty comprehensive. 98 million Prime members in the US, 4 times the population of Australia, who are on a weekly, sometimes daily basis, purchasing things from Amazon.com. Amazon, especially in the US, is the biggest e-commerce market. So that's where the opportunity is for you. And given the likeness of the Australian market to the US, it's a pretty easy transition. When we think about the foundations of successful Aussie and New Zealand businesses on Amazon.com, there are 4 that I highlighted. First one was optimizing your listing by nailing the 5 key elements of a quality detail page. So again, those were your title, your images, your bullet points, your description, and your price and delivery. Foundation number 2 is enrollment in brand registry if you are a brand owner. And just to reconfirm, a brand owner is someone who is trademark registered with an official government body, such as IP Australia. Foundation number 3 is sourcing a reliable and timely shipping partner. So again, you can do that through the service provider network. Your manufacturer might have a shipping partner, or if you're shipping from China to Fulfillment by Amazon in the US, then you'll definitely want to use Amazon Global Logistics. Foundation number 4 is engaging an expert if Amazon can't provide you the information or the infrastructure you need, or if you'd rather someone come in and do it a lot quicker and I guess to a higher standard than we would otherwise do. Moving into our recommendations. So again, 4 and 4 foundations, 4 recommendations. Recommendation 1 was engaging Fulfillment by Amazon as your US fulfillment partner. Recommendation 2 is accompanying your launch onto Amazon.com with an ads campaign. I recommend sponsored products and or coupons. They're typically our most popular and they're also the quickest to get up and running. Again, ads are there to help drive sales, to help us get reviews and help us get a history of orders, which are the 2 pieces of the 5-piece puzzle that contributes to product discoverability on Amazon. Recommendation number 3 is leveraging the insights from advertising reports. Whenever you run a campaign, make sure you're checking these. The insights you can get from it will make sure you're spending your money in the right places. And then last but not least, recommendation 4 is taking advantage of high traffic events throughout the year with lightning deals or 7-day deals. Again, the criteria for that is a little more rigorous, with needing an average of 3.5 star rating or above and 5+ reviews on your detail page each month. But with the deals homepage being the most frequently visited page on Amazon, if you can hit those criteria, it's absolutely worth it. All right, cool. We have got, 14 minutes left, which I think is ample time for Q&A. Brian, I might hand back to you to see if there's anything from Maropost end that you wanted to add before we dig into Q&A.
Yeah, thanks for that. Great job. So just relating to FBA and a question that came up on that. So yeah, FBA is handled through Maropost in the US. We have some partners that manage that, and we can send some information there. The main point is that the FBA warehouse, you'd set up the product that you send there as a separate warehouse inside of your inventory management inside of Maropost Commerce Cloud, and manage it kind of separately so that you can keep the inventory numbers correct. So we'll send out a bit of information with the partners that kind of enable that. But yeah, that's the best way to integrate there. Um, Arabella, a couple of questions that you'd be the best suited to. I'm wondering too. On the first one that came through is the insurance provider for the liability insurance. Are there some partners there that we recommend, or a direction to send an Australian seller to get that taken care of?
Yeah, good question. We don't list any insurance providers on our service provider network, so no, there isn't any that we recommend in this instance. From my research, most Australian insurers, like the NRMA, offer product liability insurance. So it's worth just researching kind of the big providers in Australia and then comparing the quotes you'll get for product liability insurance there.
Great. Another one that
Cool.
came on chat that isn't on the Q&A, I thought that I know that you'd be the expert on as well, is do Amazon FBA products handle items that require temperature control or refrigeration?
Yes, I'm not sure if you've heard this, but a lot of well, I mean, you definitely wouldn't have heard this from my friends, but from perhaps your US friends, and Brian, I'm sure you shop on Amazon as well. Groceries is a big component of Amazon, so the fulfillment centers have to be able to refrigerate products. So absolutely.
Great.
Cool. I can run through a few as well that I'm seeing here, and I'm glad we lost some time because there's quite a few, as I know there would be. Okay, can I use, oh yeah, you've done that one. What types of products best suit FBA in the US? No particular type of product. Typically, there are hazardous products typically require additional approvals or processes with FBA. So things that have like high-powered batteries or are dangerous, as with the case with any international shipping and storage, would require extra processes. So that's really the only thing. But other than that, there's no best suited product for fulfillment by Amazon. It's pretty accepting of most products.
Great. Just
Okay.
one question with
Yeah.
the price analysis tool. We have some partners, Street Pricer among others, that manage competitive analysis and price analysis. Can you talk a bit about the price analysis tools that are part of Amazon, especially in the US?
Okay, so to my knowledge, we don't really offer price analysis tools. This is probably something you'd get from a third-party provider like a Jungle Scout. I know that they collate information on competitor products, so you can see all in one the competitive offerings that are being offered against a product in your category. So to my knowledge, no analysis tools you can get from Amazon in that sense, but there's absolutely external providers that's their bread and butter.
Great.
Cool. Okay, maybe I'll move over to the chat. And as well, as I said, if you have key takeaways from the session, if you can please write them into the chat. I really want to know what resonated the most with this audience, and also what you're going to take action on as a result of this session. Like, is the US more appealing to you now through Amazon? That would be great to know. Okay, let's have a look at some of the questions here. Temperature control, we went through that one. Okay, we sell brakes for tires. How many regular buyers? Is Amazon.com.au the right marketplace for brakes, clutches, tires for cars? Yes, absolutely. If you can't see them right now on Amazon.com.au, it's likely that it's just a category that we don't have a whole lot of supply in at the moment. So that's absolutely an opportunity for you to list products in Australia of that nature. And I guess, yeah, get there before everyone else starts catching on to the Amazon.com.au growth. Be one of the first major sellers in that category. We wrote a full
Arabella,
page of key. Yeah, yeah, you go,
so
Brian.
one that was just up at the top there that I thought was really interesting. So explaining the difference between vendor central and seller central, and the benefits of those on the Amazon platform.
Mm. So Vendor Central is for our retail partners. So you have to be invited by Amazon to be a retail partner. And at that point, you will get access to Vendor Central. In terms of the benefits, I'm really unsure actually. My day to day is very heavily involved in Seller Central. So if you have any questions on Seller Central, I can absolutely tackle those. But in terms of a benefit analysis, I'm not too sure. But I do know you need to be invited to be an Amazon vendor, as opposed to just being able to set up and sell your products through Seller Central.
Great.
Yep, I have spent a lot of money on optimization on Amazon Australia. However, eBay is still much bigger. Yep, eBay is still the biggest e-commerce marketplace in Australia, but at the rate that Amazon.com.au is growing, we and analysts expect that we'll overtake eBay in like years to come. So it's definitely worth still jumping on the Amazon.com bandwagon so that you can again be one of the first or one of the established providers of a certain product in a category. I like that our Australian IP is recognized by Amazon in the USA. Yep, absolutely, Kelly. That's a fantastic benefit. If you have any questions on brand registry, the Amazon brand registry webpage has really good FAQs. I'm frequently referencing those when I get questions about brand registry, and they answer my questions pretty well.
One that I think a lot of people have on their mind that I really like that came up is Amazon saturated in the US already? Is it hard to find the right product and get started when it's already got such a hold in the market? I have some thoughts on this, but I'd like to hear, Arabella as well.
Yeah, I mean, and there definitely is saturation, but I'm consistently looking at Aussie and New Zealand selling partners who are selling what might be quite generic products, in my opinion, on Amazon.com. And by implementing the right tactics, like the correct ad campaigns, their detail pages are optimized to look really well, then the opportunity to cut through is still absolutely there. There's a lot of offerings on Amazon.com that aren't hitting those key pillars of discoverability or quality. So you can hit everything that we went through today, the foundations and the recommendations, then the saturation is not as much of an issue in my opinion. But I'd love to hear what your thoughts are there, Brian.
Yeah, I agree. I think I mentioned it at the very beginning, but it's about competing, and the reward in the marketplace, the size of it is in the US, is a substantial, reward to work towards. But as opposed to, the competitiveness. So those sellers, those brands that really do compete and take time to build momentum and traction and kind of build that flywheel, there's definitely opportunity. And when you see about the growth projections, I can uh, attest to this from being here. There's just more and more everyday items, this expansion of the type of items that you're willing to buy online as an American consumer. And I think there's also an advantage for brands that are uniquely Australian, because as the market here is growing, there's more and more interest for global products than I've seen in quite a while. So yes, there's a lot going on. There's a high rate of penetration in the US, but the opportunity is still massive, and it's 100% where you want to be when you're expanding into global markets, and especially into North America.
Yeah, good answer, Brian. I know we've missed part of Robert's question. Do I suggest a container of fast-moving items as a start, providing it's competitive? Yeah, absolutely. We typically say to Australian, New Zealand businesses, like if you're hesitant about sending your full catalog into the US, start with your most competitive, best-selling products here in Australia and send those into FBA, put an ads campaign against them, and then monitor things from there. It's a good way to get a sense for how the market reacts to your products. So, and for you to get a sense of how it all works.
Yeah. And on that FBA side too, I know on the partner side with Maropost, we have some really exciting partnerships that are in the works that are very well adopted in the US 3PL and warehousing providers that will integrate really well with the Maropost Commerce Cloud cPanel and allow you to really track this and utilize, warehousing and storage here, so that you can feed those into FBA and really take advantage of Prime, which is just a massive thing to be a part of.
Mm. Okay, we have technically 3 minutes left, and I've got 2 more questions that I've popped through that I'll answer. But if you have yet to share your key takeaways from the session or the item that you're going to act on next as a result of the session, would really love to hear those, so that I can know for future reference as well what resonates. But to you, Hilary, what's the difference of selling in the US marketplace and selling in AU marketplace? Can Americans see the search result from Amazon AU? Yes, Americans can browse on amazon.com.au for products, but it's unlikely they would, as they can get most of the products that they would be searching for in Australia, in the US. And again, they have an expectation or become very accustomed to the 2-day free delivery. So that's kind of the biggest difference, is having product in the home country where you can get the product to the customer in the shortest time frame possible. Kelly, alcohol sale question was answered for the US market. Unfortunately, for non-United States residents, you cannot sell alcohol into the US market. It's something that we're trying to work on to see what the workarounds might be, but as it exists now, it's quite difficult to sell alcohol if you live in Australia in the US.
One from the Q&A. So what type of products best suit FBA in the US?
Yeah, I briefly touched on this one. So I can't think of a particular category of products that are kind of do the best, but in terms of, is this just for FBA or is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, no particular type of product. I often get asked like, what's selling really well on Amazon.com, and it's kind of impossible to answer. Like most things sell pretty well on Amazon.com, across all categories. So the only issues with FBA again is if you're selling a dangerous good or a hazardous good, then you'll have to go through extra steps in order to get it into FBA. But otherwise, it's very accepting of mostly everything.
Yeah, and I would say, if you are using a 3PL or have experience using that, you're probably going to see a similar. So items that are smaller, that are easier to ship while still have good margins are great to product. Things that are items that are highly searchable and are fast moving. That's obviously, while you're building the brand and building your presence, is a great place to start, and then expanding out the inventory from there.
Yeah. Cool. All right. I know we're up on 3 p.m. now. I think we've answered everyone's questions, which is fantastic that we had time to get through all of those. Thanks so much, Brian and Cisco and Maropost, for putting this session together. I hope it was informative for our attendees and they have a better sense of the steps to launching into the US now and how to be successful on Amazon.com.
Great. And then if you've got any other questions or are interested in some more information, please let us know through Maropost, and we'd be happy to. We'll send out some information there and a link to send an information request.
Cool. Thanks so much, everyone.